Hello everybody, good morning. Let's crack on with today's lesson, which is divorce. So if I just present my screen. Lovely. Okay, guys. So this is lesson 6 of your marriage and the family lessons, and today, of course, we're looking at divorce. So judging by the intro slides that we have here, divorce is always kind of something that people gossip about, talk about in the mainstream media. Why? I guess it's gossip, relationship troubles, which is a really bad way of looking at divorce. Divorce is obviously something which is really hard thing to go through. It's, the breaking up of a relationship, of a marriage. If there's children involved, it's a really serious thing, and it can cause families to kind of be turned upside down and shaken about, and kind of having to restructure themselves afterwards. So it's quite interesting when we look at these 3 different magazine covers to kind of see how society sees divorce. Because well, the middle image is obviously really upsetting. So today we're going to be giving Christian teachings about divorce and remarriage. We're going to explain different Christian attitudes about divorce and remarriage. So you need to have teachings which is from the Bible, inspired by the Word of God, and then the attitudes around it, looking at Catholic attitudes, looking at Protestant attitudes. We're then going to compare it with non-religious viewpoints and how Christians respond to those. And then we're going to apply our ethical theory of situation ethics. Now, hopefully you are feeling quite comfortable with situation ethics. If not, then not to worry, we'll be going through it today. So guys, many of you could be sitting at home thinking, yeah, my parents have recently divorced, or we've had to go through divorce a couple of years ago. So this might be a bit of a sensitive lesson for you today. But it shouldn't, because we're looking at quite, the factual stuff around it, viewpoints. But of course, with religious studies, we're going to be looking at emotions as well, which is really important. So first of all, key term, what is divorce? Is the legal termination of a marriage. Now, if you kind of take away the God stuff and you just look at marriage is a legal union of 2 different people together under law. So you're basically, one entity. So you share income, you share responsibilities of the house, you share responsibilities for children. So when you divorce, you've got all of these things to consider. Who might get the house? Who might look after the children? When will the husband have the children? When will the wife have the children? Or if it's a gay couple, the husband and husband. So guys, what do you think are the most common reasons for a divorce, and what do you think Christianity teaches about divorce? Okay, so most common reasons, guys, are normally due to marriage breakdown. It could be for a number of reasons. It could be financial strains. It could be the fact the couple's fallen out of love with one another. Of course, adultery, being a sin, but it's not a crime, is a big one as well, that most couples can't really get back together from. And of course, with Christianity, guys, marriage is sacred, marriage is holy. So for Christians, divorce is always the last resort. You should always try to reconcile your marriage. Catholics, completely against it. They do not recognise divorce. But other forms of the Christian church, such as the Protestant church, do accept divorce, but as I said, only as a last resort. So guys, we look at Christian teachings, and remember they are divergent, and already I've said about the differences between Catholic and Protestant. Okay, so the Christian church is divided on the subject of divorce. In the Bible, Jesus appears to give 2 very different teachings. Silly Jesus. And because of this, it's made things quite complicated for the Christian church, because that, which one do we follow? So first of all, he says anyone who divorces his wife and marries another woman commits adultery against her, which means you can't divorce and then remarry, because you are still in this sacred bond with God, this promise to God, you know, the sanctity of marriage, the sacredness. So to divorce your wife, then go off with somebody else, no, that is impossible. You cannot divorce and break down your legal, not your legal, sorry, your sacred promise with God. Okay, next one. Divorce is okay in the case of unfaithfulness. So these are from two different gospels, guys. You've got the Gospel of Mark and the Gospel of Matthew. Now, St. Paul, being the greatest missionary of Christianity, living a couple of hundred years after the death of Jesus. This was the dude that was the nasty Roman soldier called Saul, who was killing all of the Christians. And then he had his conversion experience. He said a wife must not separate from her husband, but if she does, she must remain unmarried. A husband must not divorce his wife. So as you can see, guys, some really conflicting instruction from the Bible, all of which these people are supposed to be inspired by God. So because of this, guys, there's been lots of kind of different attitudes around divorce in the church, which is what you will need to articulate if you get an essay question on this. So the Catholic viewpoint, divorce is not possible because marriage vows are a covenant. Now remember, guys, a covenant, who was the first person that made a covenant with God? Aha, well done, it was Abraham. He agreed that he would obviously lead the people to follow God, and God said, you will be my chosen people, and that was the birth of Judaism. So yes, a covenant is made by both partners to each other and to God. A couple can never be divorced according to God's law. A Catholic who does divorce cannot remarry in a Catholic church. They will declare a marriage to be annulled in some circumstances. So an annulment, guys, is basically to say the marriage never took place, and that can only ever happen if it is found that the people who married were forced to marry, or they were underage, or if the wedding was not consummated, so if there was no sex on the night of marriage. Okay, now this is from the Catechism of the Catholic Church, which is their it's not really their holy book, because the holy book needs to come from God. But the Catechism of the Catholic Church is like their rule book for their denomination of Christianity. So it says, between the baptized, a ratified and consummated marriage cannot be dissolved by any human power for any reason other than death. So they are really, you know, no divorce, no. And instead, guys, say for example, I don't know, there was abuse in the relationship, and therefore, you know, the woman wanted to, or the man who could be abused, wanted to leave the relationship. It would be very much, no, you need to go to church and you need to seek the advice of the priest, and the priest should then be able to help you. It could be the fact that the husband might need to, or the wife, whoever the abuser is, needs to go on an anger management course. They may need to go and have therapy. So they really are about not splitting the family, but making sure that they stay together. Now, of course, that can be really, really, really problematic. At the end of the day, someone is being abused and they have every single right, legal right, to leave that marriage. And this is where sometimes religious belief and the law can be at odds with one another. And especially, you know, with atheist viewpoints, especially with the British Humanist Association, because their key thing is about a happy life is a fulfilling life. So why would you stay in a relationship where you are being abused, or why would you stay in a relationship if, you know, you're being cheated on? So they, again, that would be the big debate between the Catholic viewpoint and the humanist viewpoint. Okay, so an annulment. If any of you watch Friends, they do mention this. Of course, Ross is like divorced 3 times, isn't he? Then he gets married to Rachel in Las Vegas. So very, very, very drunk. And he doesn't want to have another divorce. He doesn't want to be like the 4th divorced person. So he tries to get the annulment, and he is successful, because him and Rachel were very, very drunk. So basically saying they were not in the right state of mind when they were married. So yeah, if you want, you can click on the clip. You can watch a little clip of that episode. Now, the UK government says your marriage is not legally valid; it is void. So you can annul a marriage if it was not legally valid in the first place. For example, you're closely related to the person you're marrying. One or both of you were under 16, or one of you was already married in a civil partnership. If a marriage was never legally valid, the law says it never existed. So in this case, they were absolutely drunk out of their minds. It didn't really exist. They didn't mean what they were saying. Okay, now the Protestant view is very, very different. Now, if you go back to history, who is this dashing fellow with all of these lovely ladies around him? Of course, it's King Henry VIII. King Henry wanted to divorce his wife, and at the time, the Catholic Church ruled England. The king got very angry. No, this is my land. I am the king. Have been appointed by God to rule this land as king. Therefore, we are going to break away from the Catholic Church, and I'm going to establish a new church under my name. Now, of course, the Protestant and the Catholic disagreements. There's been wars. There's been killings. From watching any good films, you've got Mary, Queen of Scots, and Queen Elizabeth. That's a whole kind of Protestant Catholic conflict going on there between royalty. And initially, guys, he wanted to divorce his wife, and because he wasn't happy with her. Then he married the next one. I think he beheaded. Was it divorced, beheaded, died, divorced, beheaded, survived, and that's the rhyme there. So divorce can be permitted if on the following grounds. Humans can make mistakes and relationships do break down, so therefore you are allowed a divorce. God forgives mistakes. After asking God's forgiveness, believers may divorce and then remarry again. That is absolutely fine in the Protestant church. Divorced people can remarry in the Protestant church if the local clergy agree, but conservative Protestants still disapprove of divorce and remarriage. And the big thing is, guys, is because, as I said, it's meant to be a sacred, holy vow. And if, I guess King Henry VIII is like the modern day Katie Price. If he's just cracking on and marrying and divorcing, is he really taking, or is she really taking, or whoever it is, are they taking their holy vows seriously? Is marriage still a holy institution to bring people together, to love one another, to respect one another, to honor one another? And if you're just kind of divorcing everybody, yeah, so that's kind of their viewpoint there. Okay, so this is from the Church of England's statement on marriage. Marriage should always be undertaken as a lifelong commitment, but there are circumstances in which, as a divorced person, may be married in church. And I said that could be any of these. So the fact that, they're breaking down. And if we go back to the quotes from Jesus, he was very much, if someone has committed adultery, then you can divorce. Didn't really say anything about remarriage, and that definitely can divorce. Okay, guys, now you've got 2 exam questions here. State 3 Christian attitudes towards divorce, 3 marks. It can literally be 1 Christian attitude to divorce is that it is forbidden, as it is going against the holy vow promised to God. A second one is, and literally just bam, bam, bam. B, explain 2 divergent Christian beliefs on divorce. So I do point, explain on Catholic viewpoints, and then however another Christian belief is, and then do Protestant, and then the explanation. Okay, so feedback. You could have said 1 Christian teaching on divorce is that it's never accepted in the Catholic Church, as divorce would be breaking the promise to God. Another attitude that is not okay is it disrespects God's gift of marriage. Another attitude that is not okay is it would break the covenant made under holy matrimony. Ooh. Okay, the B question. 1 belief on divorce is that it is okay under the Protestant Church. This is because they recognise that relationships can break down and God forgives mistakes. However, a divergent belief is that divorce is never okay. It's seen as a sin by the Catholic Church. This means that a couple has made a holy promise to God which cannot ever be broken, as it is a spiritual connection, not just a legal union. Ta-da! Okay, now we're going to go on to the second part of the lesson, which is about divorce, and looking at non-religious groups. So if we look at the graph, you can see the red line represents marriages and the blue divorce. What can you see? What patterns? What trends? And if you look at the key dates, we've got World War II, Then you've got the Divorce Reform Act of 1969. We'll talk about that in a moment. Do you apologise? And then you've got the Asylum and Immigration Act of 2004. So as we can see, guys, marriage has unfortunately gone down. Well, not unfortunately, it's up to you really what you want to do with your relationship. And divorce has gone up and kind of gone down a little bit again. So there were 114,720 divorces in England and Wales in 2013. In 2013, there were 98 divorces per 1,000 married couples, and divorce was highest among couples aged 40 to 44. So as we can see, guys, divorce has been on the increase. Lots of different reasons why, and you know, it was all down to whatever has happened to that couple. But I think what is true to say is there has been a shift in the age that people are getting married now. So I think maybe around 10 to 20 years ago, people did get married in their 20s. But people nowadays sometimes feel that that's far too young to get married. Instead, in your 20s, people are going out and exploring the world and kind of getting to know who they are as people, and then settling down in their 30s. And this has been a real common trend, and mainly because this generation now that I'm talking about, waiting until they're 30, are the generation who have seen their parents divorce. So they've seen their parents get married at 20, in their 20s, sorry. Could be, you know, early 20s, mid 20s, and by the time they're hitting 40, they're divorcing. Yeah, so that's perhaps an explanation as to why some people are waiting now until they're a little bit older. So why? A key piece of legislation, guys, is the Divorce Reform Act of 1969. Now, before then, it was very difficult to get a divorce. It was really expensive. You had to prove certain things, and basically, it was just too much hassle, and people were not able to get divorced. So this piece of legislation actually made the process a lot easier and a lot cheaper, which then saw divorce rates go up. Okay, so now let's look at non-religious views. So we've got the British Humanist Association. This is a statement from them. Though marriage is a useful social institution, humanists do not believe that it is sacred. They recognise that some relationships fail and so support liberal divorce laws, which means, yeah, if your relationship fails, you can divorce that person. Now, that's not to say that all non-religious people believe in what the Humanist Association believes in. There are still many religious people who still feel that divorce should be very much like the Protestant view, and it should be a last resort because you need to take into consideration, you know, if there are children involved. So atheists can object to divorce due to social or cultural reasons. And others think it is up to the couple to decide what is better, rather than thinking like, oh no, God, or oh no, you know, if people think bad of me. So yeah, humans believe that you have one life and therefore it's important to be happy. Now, guys, if we go back to kind of the social cultural reasons, if we say look at the African Caribbean culture, their culture is very much in line with Christian viewpoints. So it could be the fact that they believe, it could be bringing shame to the family. The wife might feel like, oh, I can't divorce my husband because people might think I'm a bad mother. And it could be the dad thinking the same thing. People might think I'm a bad father if I divorce. So we're looking at social and cultural reasons. That's really what we're talking about there. Okay, so how might a Christian respond to humanist views which say, yep, you should divorce if you are unhappy? So if we look at Catholics and we look at liberal Protestants, which one out of those two would be most at odds with humanism? Catholics, good. Yes, Catholics would be like, nope, definitely not. You stick it out, you go and you get marriage counselling, you go and get help rather than you just divorce. Whereas a liberal Protestant would be more in agreement with humanist viewpoints. Now we're going to look at situation ethics. Now, if you remember, guys, that is based on the principle of agape. Now, agape is Latin or Greek, I can't remember which one, but it is for selfless, sacrificial, unconditional love. Now, if you think about love, there are many different types of love. I love my cat. I love my flat. I love my fiance. I love my best friend. I love my little sisters. Now, we have one word, but they mean very different things. I don't love my flat in the same way that I love my sisters. That's different. So there are actually different types of love. And so when we're talking about love, we're talking about agape. It is selfless. It is unconditional. It's the highest form of love when we're talking about the process of situation ethics. So situation ethics was coined by a gentleman called Joseph Fletcher, who was writing in the 60s. He was an American priest, and felt like in the 60s a lot of people were turning away from Christianity because it was quite dogmatic in its approach with regards to failing relationships, in that, no, if you're a divorcee, then you're cast out of the church and you have shame upon your family, and that therefore made people turn away from Christianity, and they lost a lot of believers and a lot of followers. So Joseph Fletcher said we really need to reject this whole idea that you can't divorce, because at the end of the day, Jesus was God in human form, and Jesus taught love thy neighbor, agape, love. So rather, the individual needs only to apply love to the particular situation, which is agape. Agape being justified in a consequential manner through the end that is sought. So, guys, say for example, I don't know, I am the priest. A woman comes to me, priest Melissa, my husband is beating me and beating my children. I need to divorce him. We've tried marriage counselling. He has tried therapy. I know he's on some sort of medication to stabilise his emotions, yet nothing is changing. We need to leave. If I follow situation ethics, I would apply whatever the most loving thing is. Now, the most loving thing is, in my viewpoint, then, is to allow this woman to divorce her husband and to make sure that her and her children are safe. So situation ethics is about doing the most loving thing. If I didn't, and say, for example, I know I went for whatever is written in the Bible, as in divorce is, wrong, marriage is sacred, and I went kind of down the Catholic viewpoint, I might go, no, you need to stay with your husband. Yeah, okay, your children are being beaten. Of course, maybe go to a safe place, maybe give some distance between you and your husband, but you must still remain married to him because, of course, you've made a promise to God. Now, that can be it's really difficult for the wife. It could turn out okay, the husband might turn himself around and they could all live happily ever after, but at the end of the day, you need to be thinking about what is right for that person who's being abused at that time. So situation ethics was really quite groundbreaking, and it drew more people back into the Christian church when they were saying, no, we were wrong to be thinking about it in this way. We need to be embracing love and empathy. How would I feel if I were you? And that's how we kind of apply agape. So AO2, what is situation ethics and how can you apply it to divorce? We've just discussed that, guys. So you need to do the following, and we have covered all of them. So guys, if you would like to stop the video now and have a little look at what you need to do note-wise. If you've got any questions, please let us know. We are always here via email. Okay, thank you so much for your time. Bye.